When you bought your morning coffee today, you probably noticed that it costs a little extra if you use your card instead of cash. This particular surcharge is now under scrutiny as everyday Australians feel the brunt of the escalating cost of living crisis. The RBA says it will conduct a review into whether card surcharges should be banned or at least reduced, but there is pushback. Joining me now is Labor MP Jerome Laxall. Jerome, what's the line here? What would be fairer, do you think?
Well, we're in 2024. 75% of us use digital payment at the checkout. For as long as I know, cash has been surcharge-free. I believe there should be one fee-free digital option for Australians in 2024 and beyond. And I'm glad the RBA has brought forward their review because what's happening now is not working. I think consumers and businesses, really importantly, businesses, are being slugged for a service that's essential and that for the alternative hasn't been sort of hit in the same way. And I'd like to try and change that.
Yeah, okay. So cash is still available, but there are a lot of businesses that actually are becoming increasingly cash free. So card is the only option. Also, it's pretty much illegal to pay for anything that's over $10,000, and that was essentially a government decision. So there's a little bit of, blame to go around here. How do you, because obviously it costs the banks still, and we want our banks to be profitable. So how do you think this should be calculated, and who should pay for the card surcharge?
Well, cash costs the bank, right? And those costs have been embedded. We had evidence last week from the CBA. They cited some study which said cash costs double the amount. That seems to have sorted itself out where businesses don't have to surcharge, and nor should they. I'm saying that same sort of treatment needs to happen in the digital space. Australian banks are different. They own a very well-known payment system in EFTPOS debit through Australian Payments Plus. They operate OSCO, bank transfers, BPay, EFTPOS debit. The banks co-own this with big retailers. I don't see why payments on that method are treated differently to payments via cash. This is our own money. It's coming straight out of our bank account, just like cash does.
Yeah.
It's safer, it's quicker, it's more efficient.
Are you making the distinction, though, between there being a surcharge on a debit card and a credit card? Because credit cards, you're technically not using your own money. You're borrowing from the bank. So perhaps we could start with there being no charges on debit cards.
So fair fees for businesses. Right now, there's a huge inequity between small business and big business. I used to run a small business. You have to pay, up to $1,000 a month on these merchant service fees. So big businesses are paying a very low fee on EFTPOS debit. Small businesses are paying a very high fee. So that the RBA needs to look at that. But yes, I totally understand. You've got your international card providers, Visa, MasterCard, Amex. They let you borrow money on short term. They points, they give you all this stuff. Definitely understand why they need to charge a fee for service. But for EFTPOS debit, for BPay, for OSCO, for the National Payments Platform, this is co-owned by the banks, co-owned by the retailers.
Sure.
It's beneficial for them that we use digital payments. But we're living in this upside down world where the cheapest form of payment is being charged for. And I think the time for that is up.
Are you going after Apple too? Apple Pay is surely an issue.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'll do one thing at a time. I think, Laura. It's.
But you're choosing to go to banks before you go Apple. Is that right?
Well, I'm just trying to get some fairness in these fees because I've even spoken about blended rates, where you've got service providers that are charging one rate, but turning on low cost routing and keeping the savings aren't being passed on to the merchant or to the consumer. So this is wildly complex. I'm not trying to say it's not, but I want to come at this with a very simple proposition. Cash is fee-free. There should be one digital fee-free option, and that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, it's not really a level playing field when it comes to the tech giants and Apple in particular, is it? Have you got any ideas about how to fix that?
Well, we've got legislation before the Parliament. It's stapled with 4 or 5 others. The RBA do want these extra powers. The banks want the RBA to have these extra powers. Hopefully that legislation can pass soon so that the RBA can undertake a review, particularly into new new payments. I think I heard in evidence the other day that payments regulation hasn't been, or payments legislation hasn't been looked at since 1988.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. This legislation needs to go through, and then that'll give the RBA more powers to look at digital wallets, to look at these monopoly providers like Apple and Google who offer wallets. And I think that can be looked at, at the same time as the payment surcharge review. But, hats off to the RBA for bringing this review forward.
Yeah.
We now need to make sure that retailers, consumers, small businesses in particular, aren't just left with the cost burden here. It's more than just a simple ban on surcharges. We need to address the inequity in the system and the costs associated with it.
Jerome, thanks so much for your time. See you soon.